Hi, welcome to another episode of OtherSide Plays Other Games. Today, we will be playing Arcane's classic, Dishonored. I'm not sure we can call it a classic yet. Hasn't been 20 years, but it's a classic modern classic. I'm Chris Siegel, senior producer at OtherSide, and joining me today is the legendary Paul Nura, founder of OtherSide, Tim Stelmach, senior designer, and as usual, Tex Era is driving, and but it's classic modern classic. I'm Chris Siegel, senior producer at
We also have
OtherSide,
some very
and joining
special
me today
guests.
is the legendary
Raphael
Paul Nura, founder of
Colantonio,
OtherSide,
president and
Tim
co-creative
Stelmach,
director
senior
at Arcane
designer,
Studios.
and as
Hi, Ralph.
and as usual,
Hello.
Tex Era is
Thank you.
driving,
Nice to meet
and
you.
it's classic
And Austin Grossman, currently director of design and Magic
I'm
League
Chris Siegel,
novelist,
senior
and
producer at
he is
OtherSide,
one of the
and
narrative
joining me
designers of
today
System
is
Shock
the
and
legendary
Dishonored.
Paul Nura of
Austin
OtherSide,
will probably be
Tim
joining us
Stelmach,
later.
senior designer,
And off we go. So as you can see, Will's already started here. He's this is driving level 3, Grossman, currently, and he's probably not stealthy. And he is one of the narrative so, Raphael, what exactly is Dishonored? So as you can see, Will's already
Well,
started here.
Dishonored is, I would say, it's the
level 3, Grossman.
it's the game that
He's probably not stealthy.
we've always wanted to make since we started
So,
Arcane. You know, Arcane
Raphael,
was very much into
what exactly is
the Looking
Dishonored?
Glass type of game, first person
So as you can see, Will's
slash action slash adventure
Dishonored
slash
is,
RPG. Those very immersive first person games that have depth and
Yeah.
encourage player choice and you know, you play
uh,
your way and you can do pretty much anything you try. Usually we will try to show to the player, and so this is one of those. You know, we were a big fan of Thief, of Underworld, you know, a long time ago, and so that's our take on that genre, basically, where you're an assassin in a steampunk city. So you're a supernatural assassin with, at some point you meet a character called the Outsider, which give you a chance to have those crazy superpowers like the blink that we might see here occasionally.
The blink is great fun, by the way. Awesome feature.
Yeah, you know, the blink has a fun story to it. It used to be just one of so many powers that we did, and it's only around end of alpha that we decided to actually give it for free at the beginning of the game, because we noticed that players would not use powers before that. And I don't know, you know, players had some anxiety about spending the mana or something. So we made the two changes. We said, well, the mana is going to be slightly regenerative. So if you look at your lower portion of mana, it's always recharges for free. And also we are going to give blink for free. This way we give a lot of comfort to players to just experiment. And this is when we also found out that it actually became part of the identity of Corvo. Is the blinking assassin.
Were there any surprises with, game mechanics breaking once people were using blink a lot?
Were there any surprises with the breaking game mechanics?
Yeah, with the blink spell, you can imagine.
Oh,
that
yeah.
you could blink her to places that the game might not anticipate or deal with
Absolutely,
elegantly.
and you know, part of it is actually desirable. Part of it is what we want as designers. We want to empower the player to surprise us. Basically, we set up this scene, which is some sort of a sandbox, and of course, as designers, we have a rough ideas of what the main players would do, and we set up the patrols, etc. But really, if the players break the game without making the experience shitty, then it's a good thing for us. For example, if they manage to access the rooftops without us really wanting that, because it's all relies on simulation anyway. It's not that we cheat much with script. Then the players can find their own ways. That's when everything goes well. And of course, sometimes there are bugs and those are the things that we have to pay attention to. But overall, it's a it was a big plus for the game.
So that's really interesting. It has, this system has a lot in common with the, as you were saying, with regards to your inspiration for some of the Looking Glass games. Very much, very much our design philosophy there as well. But it involves a very different approach to the design than you see in a lot of traditional action adventure games. Which are a bit more curated experience from the designer's point of view.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if you could comment on how how you go about designing an experience with with that amount of authorship in the player's hands.
Yeah, it really requires thinking a very different way than most games I've trained designers lately. If you go back to Underworld, it's more like setting a space of possibilities where, so you design of course you design your mechanics, and that AI can hear you, they can patrol, they can talk to each other, they can help each other, they can flee, etc., etc. And you also know that there might be some other rules, like they can pick up objects, or they are attracted by rats, or whatever it is. And so it's really about setting up all those rules in without any context, really. And then when you put all those systems together, they kind of magically do the work for you as a designer. And so they exist without the player in a way.
Well,
yep.
Hey, this is Austin. The word magically, like, that's the thing though. Like, you figure, it looks like it just works, but there has to be a lot of there had to be a lot of problems where you had to change rules and change spells and change systems, right?
Yeah.
Sure, it didn't just happen that easily.
No, but but still. So the thing is that it's very scary for most developers to work this way, because of course you put all those systems together and then you let them work for you, and you're gonna have a lot of bugs. You're also gonna have a lot of cool things that you were not thinking about, and so it's about fixing the bugs and also making the addressing the bugs and making the things that could be cool, making them more cool. So you encourage them now to work, and so it's such a very, very iterative process where you count on the simulation to give you ideas, and then you add some new ideas to the simulation, which reacts to your ideas, etc., etc. So it's kind of scary from a producer standpoint, I assume, Chris, because it's very iterative, and it calls for a lot of bugs. But in this case, bugs are going to be helping you to find some ideas, and then it's up to you to fix them.
So maybe I'm in a unique position, but my first gig in the game industry was QA on Thief. So
Awesome.
my indoctrination was to this exact style of gameplay. And I've actually have spent the past 15 years going, how come we're building it this way? So I'm very happy to be back to more improv game design. It makes far more sense to me.
If I can put you on the spot, I wonder if you can remember offhand any particularly good surprises that your players gave you during the development of Dishonored.
Yeah, I think well, there's so many, but one that comes to mind is you have the possess power, which allows you to basically enter the body of another character. So players started, actually our testers, they started to do things such as when they're on a rooftop like this, instead of finding a way down, they would just jump, and then before they fall to their death, they would possess some random NPC, and so this way they would avoid the fall.
That actually sounds pretty cool. So why not allow them to do that?
Exactly, and so that's one of them where, and of course thankfully that was caught by the testers, because when they would do that, there would be a big pop. And this is a perfect example of a moment where we have to choose as developers: do we fix that by finding some sort of additional rule to prevent the player from doing this, or do we think, oh wow, that's kind of cool, and let's just fix the pop so that it's actually smooth and the player feels really, really smart when he does that.
I was watching some master players yesterday as I was setting this up, and some of the things that they've pulled off using the systems
Oh my
was
god.
kind of mind blowing.
Hmm.
It made me feel like a noob, and makes me want to go back and I'm going to play through the whole game again. Yeah, and the teleport on a fallen guy was one of the ones I saw. And I was like, wow, he just like surfed a dead body down to the ground.
Yeah.
Speaking of wanting to play again, do you have any? Have you gathered any information on how many players will replay the game a second or third time through?
Yeah, we had some sort of data about that, and it's actually more than we thought. And I think some of it is because of there are the very two obvious paths that you can take, either the super lethal, I'm gonna kill everyone, or the non-lethal playthrough where you actually finish the game without killing anyone, and so that we call this the low chaos. Uh, and we were surprised because we did the low chaos one for really for us. We thought there would be only two players on Earth that would play low chaos because it's kind of boring and slow, and you have to avoid fights.
I'm one of them.
But instead, actually, because of some of the consequences in the stories and just the challenge, I guess, and also the emotional impact of not killing some of the targets that you might actually kind of like, then we had actually a lot of players. I would say probably 1 in 3 would actually play the game several times just to try the other endings. You know.
That's great, and I think that's one of the powers of this kind of game style. That it invites
Right.
you to experiment and then think about it and say, I could have done that differently. Maybe let me try it out.
Yeah, and I think that's why games like Fallout as well and all that, they're so powerful in because they present a lot of value to the players. They feel like, they're not once they buy this, they don't really want to bring it back to the store because it feels like they can replay it forever.
Yeah, that's good. So I had a question for Austin. So it must be challenging to try to write a narrative for a game that's this kind of unpredictable in how the player might try to play through. What were some of the challenges that you faced, doing some narrative work for Dishonored?
Well, I mean, you're right about that. When the game system is so flexible, you can't depend on the player to, as it were, stay in character, and you can expect them to try to break the story, right? Try to solve things in different ways. Try to kill people. The story obviously doesn't want you to kill. I mean, we built a ton of special cases and a ton of branching. We had small conversations that had a lot of variables going into them, right? And then we followed those through, and we tried to pay attention to how players would approach things differently, right? A story could resolve where you kill your target, where you let the target go, where you kill the person who asked you to kill the target in the first place. You try to track all the logical possibilities, and then when you write and rewrite, you try to kind of just personally kind of emotionally invest in the different directions of player choice, right? You try to put yourself in the shoes of the player who really is really psyched about one choice, and then flip yourself over and invest in another choice and play it that way. It helps that Corvo doesn't talk, I have to say, because it gives the player a little extra space to imagine and not feel intruded upon as they kind of decide on their own motives and investments as they play.
That's a really interesting point. I know during the development of some of the games at Looking Glass, like there's a big issue of the extent to which you encourage the player to sort of project themselves onto the protagonist, versus the extent to which you try to draw a distinctive character for them. In Thief, for example, Garrett was a more clearly defined character. In the Underworld games, being at their heart, like trying to deliver a role-playing experience, we really wanted to give you the ability to define for yourself what kind of character you were. It's very much